Alrighty, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, Cinco de Sixo here, 2022, and we're going to get started with our pre-market. Yesterday was probably one of the best trading mornings in our trade room. Let's go ahead and really quickly review. I think anybody who shorted the market had a great morning, right? Um, let's go ahead and shoot on back here. We'll look at the open, and just as the market opened, we were breaking right through our first expected support zone. You can see we had a little bit of an attempt here by the bulls to kind of hold this area, and then you can see price stayed below our fast moving average and just continued coming down. So out of the open, we talked about getting short from the fast moving average as the first possible trade. And then I tried to trade as we came down into the next expected support, which might have been a bad zone to go ahead and try and short when we did get a bounce right off of it. But nonetheless, we were able to get in right off our signature trade off the 200 there, and that was it, right? I got short here. I told you you can try a short off the 200, and then just went ahead and kept shorting the market right off the fast moving average the whole morning, except for this trade, which was right off our power level, our 50% of the previous day, and then went ahead and continued going, and we just continued to sell the hell out of this market and basically caught the entire move. Our target was all the way down to 41.42, and the market came down and it bounced for quite a long time at 41.43, and then came down right into our major eye level at 41.42, the ultimate target to the lower end, and we got our biggest bounce of the morning. And then it just continued to chug for quite a while, right? I think what was the low of the day here? Let me zoom out. Take a look. By this point, we were done, right? We got all the way to 42 and then got all this support right around 8 a.m. So I was done at 8 a.m., grabbed over 200 points. And if you just threw on a couple runners from the beginning of the morning, you probably as well should have grabbed at least 100 to 200 or more points if you had multiple contracts. From the end of the day here, let's take a look. We actually made a low all the way down to 40.99 quarter, making it almost down to our 4,000 target. We just have another 100 points to go from here, which is nothing in this kind of market. And right now we find ourselves kind of chopping back and forth in that range from the end of the day of yesterday. So we haven't been able to continue selling off right now or get some type of bullish recovery back up. It's just been kind of a tug of war in a tight range all night here. So let's go ahead and jump up. We'll take a look at the higher time frames, or at least some of the intermediate time frames, and then get into our levels for the morning. So I want to show you real quickly what our weekly bar looks like. Okay, so here's this week's bar. Will close obviously at the end of today. We came up with, it's basically a bearish engulfing bar, right? We've encompassed all of last week's price action and broke to the downside. Now, technically, we didn't peak up above by 2 ticks to actually cover the high from last week, but I think 2 or 3 ticks is essentially close enough, right? So we've got a beautiful bearish engulfing bar, and things aren't really looking very strong right now. And then I want to show you here on the daily, we have huge push from what was it, Wednesday's market. Basically, when Powell started speaking after the Fed announcement, the market started rallying because he was, trying to smooth things over a little bit. And so we got a little rally. And I told you coming into yesterday morning, we had a bearish divergence argument off of the high of the day before, the high of Wednesday. We had a 4-hour bearish divergence in our overnight session going into yesterday morning. And then our hourly as well had the same bearish divergence. So we had hourly 4-hour daily bearish stuff up there. And I told you as well that there was absolutely nothing going on nationally or internationally to give me any type of indication for an expectation of some type of breakout, right? There was just no indication of a breakout. So I was skeptical of a continued bullish move. And then sure enough, what happened? the market went ahead and started selling off yesterday, and we were able to capture that. So look at that daily bar. The weekly, like I said, a huge bearish engulfing on the weekly. And then on the daily here from yesterday, we've got a huge bearish engulfing bar on the daily. These are all clues that we can expect continuation to the downside, or at least that's the typical interpretation of that candlestick pattern. So this morning, where do we find ourselves? Right down here, like I said, at the bottom end of the range of yesterday's price action. We have not broken to the downside. We also haven't got any type of appreciable bullish push so far. So that's what we're seeing up here on the higher time frames. Not looking very good for the bulls. Coming down into the 4-hour chart here, we did get, and let me just go back to my daily here. Yeah, daily doesn't have any type of bullish divergence off the low, that's for sure. But the 4-hour does have a nice bullish divergence from our overnight low, which does get agreement, I believe, on our 60-minute, maybe not. So we don't really have a huge alignment there. So let's even forget about that for now. On the 4-hour here, the only two things I'm kind of noticing is if we do end up pushing higher this morning, we have the 50% retracement of the whole sell-off from, again, the highs of yesterday all the way down to the lows. Right there at our major structure zone dividing line at 4,200, right? And you can see that line has held to the upside multiple times for the last 2 weeks and held from the downside all basically Tuesday and Wednesday until the breakout, and we broke through. So that area right there is kind of sticking out to me from this perspective. And then a little bit further up, this major swing low up here happens to also be a next major structure zone around 4254. So those are the two zones I kind of stick out to me from this 4-hour perspective. And outside of that, don't really see much else. Let's go down into our 60-minute and we'll talk about all the levels that we're going to have to pay attention to this morning coming into the open. So here's our 60-minute chart. We've got every level that we would ever need to pay attention to on the chart. And you can see right now we're having a lot of trouble. The bulls are having a lot of trouble in the overnight session getting through the level that we closed at yesterday at the extended trading session there. So the market closed at 41.51. And so far all night, the bulls have attempted to kind of hold things and push higher, but just cannot get through. What else can we say here just from that? And right now, it looks like we're kind of stuck in this channel, obviously, right? So this little box is probably not a great area to be trading in. What we want to see is either some strong bullish momentum to break through the basically yesterday's close and come up into some of these other levels, or some type of strong bearish momentum to get through the low of yesterday. If that does occur, and notice that our orange power level is sitting right in between the overnight range here. So the first indication getting up through the top of it is indicating a target up to the high of the overnight session and hopefully leads to the breakout, and then holding below it obviously is a clue for lower. Now if we get up through the top end, we've got a couple levels up here. There are two zones that I'm really targeting, and that would be the 4240 to 4244 area, give or take a few. And then a little bit further, again, our major structure zone at 4256.50 to about 4260 right there. So those two little pockets look interesting to me. And then this 4200 level. Outside of those three main zones, again, 4200 to 4201, 4240 to 4244, and 4256 to 4261. Those three zones. Outside of that, we've got the 38% retracement right here at 4177, and the 61.8 retracement up here at 4225.50. Outside of those levels that I just listed for you, we do have some little minor levels in here, and they may work, so just be aware of that. But overall, those are the kind of areas I'm expecting to have resistance if the bulls do try to break out here this morning. And remember, we don't really expect any type of bullish breakout but we have to keep in mind that anything's possible in the market. It could make no sense at all. Like the news could come out and it could say World War III is starting and the market could rally. There doesn't have to be any logic to it. So if it does happen, we're ready for it, right? We know where we can expect resistance. We know good support levels to take trades off of. So if the market rips, then we'll go for it. But I'm skeptical of any type of bullish breakout this morning. Um, so let's look on the flip side of things. If the bulls can't break out, which is what I would expect, we have to look at what we're dealing with below us here. And everything below us has been talked about for about a week, if not for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't really need to spend a lot of time here. Just want to quickly mention the levels. So we've got the low of yesterday, obviously. And if that breaks, I'm still looking at that swing that we were watching back a while ago. I think we marked it on May 2nd, and on May 2nd, it ended up becoming a relevant resistance level. But this right here, 40.93 to 40.94, is the only level that sticks out to me if we break through the previous daily low. So potential to see maybe some support from there. But remember, if we're in a downtrend, I mean, it very well could rip right through it, or it could even come down and then come right to the back end of that 93 and fail, something like that. So that's why I have that level on there. It is a potential support, but could be also a perfect potential resistance if we break below it. So be aware of 93 to 94. From there, we've got our major structure level or our minor structure level at 40.80, and then we're down to the low of the week at 40.56. So maybe what I should do is label this low 40.56 just as a visual reminder on our shorter time frames that if we get below that, that is the break of the low of the week, which is pretty significant, right? So I'm going to throw it up on here. I'll make it just a dotted red line so that if we get down there on my shorter time frames, I'll be reminded that that is the low of the week. If the low of the week does break, we've already talked about all these levels: 40.42, 40.23, 4,004, the major structure level, and then we have a couple others, right? 39.50, 45 and 40, that pocket right there, and then we're into 39.14. And then there's a huge gap down to 38.45 and our next major structure level at 38.22. That's going to be another, 200 points down or more. So that's very realistic to actually get that far in this kind of market, but I think that's more than enough structure levels below us to be aware of this morning. And then on the other side, if for whatever reason the market somehow breaks out and breaks through the high of yesterday, then up above us, we still have the same stuff. 43, that swing that we were watching at 43.20 has not been tested, and our major eye level is at 24.50. So that 20 to 24 zone still in play. A little bit further above that, we do have the major retracement level here at 43.43. Which, yeah, major structure zone 43.43. I'm going to extend this out to 5-6. We'll do 7 p.m. just so that's coming across there. And then a little bit further up, we're into this pocket from 43.55 to 61. A little bit further up, 81, and then our major structure level 43.97 or 4400. That area there. Now, I'm very skeptical of that happening, so probably not going to see that occur, but if it does, you need to be aware of those levels. So that's basically it for this morning. Once again, if we just end up trading between 41.08 and the close from yesterday at 41.51, it's probably just going to be a chop fest. So going to be patient within there until we can break out, unless, of course, we get a really nice short time frame trade setup off of a critical level, and then we can try it. So have a great weekend to those watching out on YouTube. We're going to jump down to our short time frames. get with our members here and see what kind of trades we can get out of the open. So have a great one. We'll see you back on Monday.